So this is a chunk of, I think it might be Douglas Fir from the village hall. The lady that runs the village hall, the tree blew down and I went and cleared it with a friend of mine. And this is one of the bits of wood that came from it. It's slightly part rotten, sort of bit spalted. You can see the blackness. So we'll see what we can do, see whether we can turn a little bowl out of it or not, and whether we can get it to be a nice smooth finish. So first of all, we'll put it on the lathe. So we're going to end up using two different chucks today on this one. So first of all, one with a big set of jaws here, which is made by a company called Vivor, this chuck, which is a cheaper make, but I think it's worked very well. And then this is a record power chuck, which is more expensive. It's very nicely engineered. It's got a smaller set of jaws on it. They're all interchangeable jaws, but it's handy having more than one chuck, so you don't have to change the jaws. It's easier to change the chuck. So you've got the spare cash over time, then buy a second chuck. Always handy. So that will then go into here, he said. Let's see that goes into there. Whoop, that's not actually very central. Let's just undo that a minute. Get that into. That's better. That's better. So we are now mounted on the chuck. Just to orientate everyone, what should happen now is that this would become the base of this will be the base of the bowl. So we want this to slope inwards now. So the scraper's made it really rough, hasn't it? Look, you see the difference. So the scraper's not working very well, so we'll need to go back to the gouge and the skewer, I think. See how it's starting to get smoother? It's not perfect yet, but it's getting better. But this is the problem with this part rotted wood as well. That's looking better. Yes, not bad, eh? Not bad. That will do for the moment, I think. And now let's tidy up the bottom a bit if we can. Probably enough. It is 240 grit sandpaper. Smooth that out of the way. So if I slip, I don't pop my knuckles. We'll give it. We'll put some of this Yorkshire grit, True Grit on in a bit, which is a sort of paste that will polish it a bit more. But let me just take the dust off it with a bit of
Alcohol?
Aha. Never without alcohol. In the shed. Aha.
Which alcohol is this?
Guinness. No, isopropyl. Rubbing alcohol, basically. And you can see it brings the grain out a bit. I mean, it'll dry properly. It'll dry back to where it was, but this just gets some of the dirt out of the grain. Yeah, so we're just changing the chuck now. So taking the chuck with the big jaws off, put the chuck with the small jaws on. And now instead of gripping it by tightening onto something, it's going to expand into it. So you open the chuck out to grip it. Now, so what we now have is that ready to hollow out. So I've just tidied up the face. That's going to get all hollowed out in a minute, but it was a bit so it's got a couple of steps on it. So what I'm now going to do is turn, because I'm left-handed, it's much easier to hollow out if I can turn the lathe round, so like this. And that's one of the main reasons why the Coronet Herald from Record Power works well for me.
For left-handers?
Yeah, they do. Oh, I think most of their lathes have, if not all of them have, pivoty heads. Not all makes do. And it's really hard then as a left-hander.
What are you using?
This is called a bowl gouge. Just resist the temptation to put your fingers in while it's spinning, but and it's rough, it'll smooth up. Okay, but can you see how we're gradually hollowing it out? Now this big centre lump's got to come out, but gradually this is the shape of the bowl appearing. And this is the bowl gouge with the flute on it. It's not very well ground because that's me that's ground it, but and I need to get myself a nice grinding setup at some point rather than just a kind of grind wheel, which I have to say has worked. Okay, so we're starting to get there. We've got a way to go yet, but you should be able to see the beginnings of the bowl appearing. You see the little dish appearing. Got to go away. We've got to again go be careful we don't go too deep because there's a 10 on the other side, but we've got a bit to go yet, so that's good. So we've done most of the shaping now, so there we go, and it's starting to get smoother on the inside. Some of this is where the wood itself is fractured a little bit and a little bit rotten, but quite pleased with that, Helen, actually. So I'll give it another go with the sandpaper, then we'll give it a go with the
Alcohol?
Well, the alcohol and the True Grit, yeah, which we'll do. So it's coming on. This is an abrasive paste called True Grit. There's another one called Yorkshire Grit, but I think they basically do the same thing. And it's very soft paste with a little bit of stone grit in it, I think. And when you put it onto the wood, it does a couple of things. It gives it a little bit of a darker colour, but it also acts as a final kind of sandpaper. And then the more you sand, so you smear it on and then gradually turn the lathe up in speed and sort of polish it. And as you do that, the grit breaks down. So it's like a self-adjusting sandpaper. It gets finer and finer. Well, that's what it says on the tin anyhow. So, but it does seem to really finish the wood nicely. So whatever it does and however it does it, it seems to work, yeah, which is great. Let's just put a bit on the inside as well. So it's turning at about 700 revs at the moment. So give it a bit of a go like that. You see, and then we do the same on the inside. I'll get a fresh bit of paper in a minute. The good thing too with slightly spalted wood, right, is that when you're a beginner or a relative beginner like me, you can always blame any imperfections on where the wood was a little bit wrong. Whereas if you get a perfect piece of teak or perfect piece of ash or whatever, then any any blemishes are down to the turner and not to the wood, right? Well, so this came from my late father-in-law's shed. He was a tinkerer on like I am. I think a bit better than I am, but was. Sadly no longer with us. But this came from his shed. Antique wax, original wax polish. A wax polish of the highest quality for all fine furniture. So that has definitely got to work on my turning, right? Now, because it's slightly soft wood as well, Hell, it's very thirsty, hungry wood. You know, it will absorb.
Is this just this piece of wood?
When it's slightly rotten, or started to rot, that's when it gets quite soft and really absorbent. But it does vary between woods. Some woods will take oils very well and the soaks in, others it kind of bounces off. I've got a book somewhere that tells me which finish goes with which wood, but you know, there'll be people out there be able to tell you off the top of their heads, you know, and the part of the joy of it is just trying, right, and seeing seeing what works and what doesn't. And at the end of the day, worst comes to the worst. We've got a log burner, right? But that's very drastic. But also I can always turn the finish off. I sand it off, and start again. It's frustrating, but you know, it's not like it's the end of the world. And part of the joy of doing this is learning and finding out what works and what doesn't work. And that's why I quite like the challenge of a slightly warm piece of wood like this, Okay, so there you go. There's the bowl. You can see the spalting and the rotting very clearly in the base. Yeah. So this was originally, as I say, by the village hall, and then turn it over. Look at the side. And then the bottom's unfinished yet. What's going to happen is we need to put some polish and some Yorkshire, some grit on it, true grit rather, and then we'll put some glitter and some
Resin.
So let's do that now. Here's put some gold glitter into the probably about that amount. Okay, so this is this two-part epoxy, part resin, part hardener. So we just need a little bit of each.
Go.
So we're just pouring some clear epoxy into the tenon now. Let that settle out, because some of it will sink into the wood, so we'll top that up in a moment. Okay, so this is the next day, and the resin's had time to set, and you can see it now has the tenons filled with some golden glitter and some clear resin just to finish it off, and that's the bowl that you saw me make yesterday.